this is what the truth of it is. This is the collective analysis of it that actually gives you the potential to have an understanding of the depth which actually permeates the cultural retention of its own demand and requirement that you take upon its values as soon as you engage when you engage with the market, when you engage with any sort of cultural valuation, or not even valuation. This is more to say just a cultural inhabitation, a cultural role playing, a touching, a personifying of the self within the context of the cultural rote, mechanical objectification in a sense, but more of just to say the role wearing, the role playing that is done when you inhabit the culture's values by de facto being instantiate, being involved with its value system by being a part of its forward thrust, or at least its maintenance system, by being involved with the personification of the culture of a role. You are playing a role of being that agent of the game. As soon as you start engaging with it, that the culture's values will start to play on you. It will start that's why, dude, you have to be at the edge of this shit bleeding out, and that's the only way that you can stay fucking real. That's what art is, man. That's how art is able to leak something back into the fucking into what we live in, the experience that we live in, and this in the modern age. Now, this is not an archaic analysis. This is an analysis purely from modernity. Tragically, that is where we live. But what it is to say is that the real space of experience, the real space of what is righteous within the human experience, is not the cultural value system. And whenever you start to feel that, you start to inhabit the values of the culture, man, and you start to play the role, whatever your role is within the society, you start to play it, and it's dude, it really is it's a detrimental thing at the level of the soul. The level of the soul withers when it does not take long either. It's as soon as you start engaging with the cultural role, as soon as you start identifying, as soon as you start energistically, comparatively, or with the contextualization of having a relationship to the culture at all, immediately you start to take on those values, and you're warped. You are literally warped in your perception of the world, and you start to, the lens of stratified experience is literally filtered through the cultural value system. This is the same for any social group, by the way. Like, the culture is a level of social organization. That's a fact. This happens at the level of a family. This happens at the level of an individual. Sometimes this can happen at the level of the ideological. There is a religious pretension to this. Any value system will as soon as, but there's something in particular about the culture where it demands that you play the role. Families will do this too, but it's the culture is more of an exemplification of it. I think that at large, it gives itself over to being explicitly defined as a set of roles that constitute a perpetuation of the value system that those set of roles compose. And it's like a very self-defining. I think people misunderstand culture at large because we analyze it from within it. We see the totemized aspects of it, which are the exemplification and the outgrowth, the visual aspects of the value system as they manifest. But that's not actually what they are. What those things actually are is the manifestation of at scale of the collective, called the cultural collective, role playing within the context of the value system and creating a set of experiential comparative similitude within the cultural framework. So but this is the thing. It's not like the culture exists and everyone flocks to it. It's the fact that people sit in some level of engagement with creating it. I'm not saying creating it like you're putting together a gingerbread house or doing a jigsaw puzzle. I'm saying you're literally manifesting its reflection. And that's the thing. Like, the things that you see as culture are a reflection of the collective role playing that is engaged with with the value system that inherently demands. As soon as there is a role playing, as soon as you're engaged within this manifestation at large of the cultural goal, the cultural dream, you could say, because what it wants to do, its goal is to perpetuate itself, and to do that, it creates a defining experience that you have and that you visually, totemically, within the context of the perception, emotion, I don't know, whatever. The experiential aspects of culture are a reflection of the value system that is taken on by the individuals at the level of the collective, playing out the role, and the value system inherently reflects back to itself a set of circumstances that allows for it to perpetuate. I actually think the value system might be reflected back from the manifestations. So you have the cultural roles. It probably starts out with some organizational context, like building some group building, some shared goal. Sorry about that. Some shared goal where everyone's working together towards a shared, right? And then that shared goal becomes the value system is reflected in the outcomes of the shared goal, and then you get reflected back to yourself within the role that you're playing. The value system is validated by the activity. So the value system, it is to perpetuate basically the activity at the level of the activity, which at the level of the cultural. At the level of the cultural, it's cohesion, it's perpetuation of itself, and it's putting itself in the context. It's putting itself in the context where it's able to be most likely continued. And it's a survival instinct for the culture. When anything is in survival mode, it can't be good. And so that's what I think is really misunderstood, is that the cultural, that first of all, as soon as you take on the cultural role, you're working towards the cultural goal being realized, and the cultural values are a reflection of that cultural goal, and the experience that you have within the culture reflected back to you experientially is not the totemic, is not the perceptionalized within the context of your experience. It's not what you think it is. What it is a reflection of that manifestation and the cultural dream to bring itself into existence. It's reflected back to you as a set of incentives or like holding patterns within the role. But when you go to a football game, when you go to a professional football game, and I hate to go at football, I don't even think at the level of the game, I don't even think this really is a part of it. I don't think the game is really a part of it. It's the culture around it. But every single person in that stadium is playing their role is being manifested back to them as the experience. Every single person in there. Their role in the culture, whether it's worker, whether it's keeper of the sacred temple, whether it's, sports hero, athletic, game hero, simulation hero. That's very important for the culture, but you got to understand every person in there is being fulfilled by the experience at the level of their role. So their role and their values that they have on a cultural level, as soon as you inhabit that, as soon as you take on that role, you take on the values of the culture. So that's because you wouldn't be taking on the role if you aren't taking on the values. You can't be in the role. You can't be in the cultural role without having the cultural values. It's defined. The role is defined as the set of values. It's really not distinct. The cultural role it has a set of incentives. That's what the role is. It's not like you can't be a bad actor in the culture. That's what I'm saying, is like as soon as you start doing it, you have the values, because that's what the role is about. That's what the role means. It means now you're working towards this. And the manifestation, the experience that people, when you're in that role, that's what I'm saying. When you're in that role, that experience at a cultural level is exactly the experience. That experience at the cultural level is exactly what that role is demanding to be played. That it is exactly the level of that role. The experience is for the cultural member. It validates it. I don't even know if it validates, but it just defines it. That experience is wherever you are in the culture, it gives your role in it. Your role in the culture is exactly given its experiential due in that context. Like, not everyone experiences the same. Whatever your role in the culture is, that is how you're going to experience that event. But it's not a sports event. It's a cohesion event. But I'm not even saying the level. Oh, it's like a group. It's like a group bonding at scale, or some sort of like morale exercise. It's not about that. It's about at the level of the individual. I'm talking about. It's about validate. It's not even about validating. It's just that every experience that you have within the culture is dependent on your role. So you're experiencing that event through your role, and that goes for everything. That goes for being engaged in, the school system or at some level of the market. I don't know how close markets are attached to culture. I've actually been trying to figure that out. But for like totemized events, like think about walking around in a cultural space. It's defined by you're validated by being there, not even by being there, but just like the experience. This is the point. It's distinct to the role. The role is the thing that depends on your experience. Like you would, if you were an objective observer outside the culture, you would see people walking around at a mall. But the people inside of the culture walking around the mall are inhabiting around inside of the mall that are inside of the culture are having a cult. They're experiencing that from inside the role. So they're not just walking around in a mall. They are fulfilling the values of the role, and that going out to a restaurant can be a cultural event depending on like that. But people aren't just going out for dinner. And again, I'm not saying it's not the level of social cohesion. This is at the level of the definitional experience of what is happening and the values of the role. Again, as soon as you're in the role, you're taking on the values and the cultural experience. Since you are in the role, having the experience, and the experience is defined by your role's relation to the cultural event, or that's just a proxy for every interaction that you have within the culture. The values that you have are the culture's immediately once you're within the role, and the experiences you have are from the context of your relation from the role to the culture. So you are at both ends trapped by the cultural values and experience. You actually kind of become not even a person in the cultural sense. There's a real fucking trap in it, man. I don't know how they figured that shit out. Whoever the social engineers that put that shit together, because it's not natural. This is a supra biological organizational system. This is above the biological level. The Dunbar number is far below the cultural holding volume. So it's like, but my point really to say today is that as soon as you take on that role, like immediately, you have taken on the values of the culture. You can't identify with the cultural role without immediately taking on the cultural values. And that's something to be very, very aware of.